Hi folks, Michael Neff here, Director of Gears Sports, and we're going to do a short video on troubleshooting. So what happens when things aren't going so well, or why can't I get a good capture, or why does the club look crazy, or why is what's going on. So there is a price to be paid for accuracy, and Gears, it might seem like Gears has a lot going on, but we have simplified optical motion capture more than anybody in the history of mankind has. And we've made a consumer-grade product that is extremely accurate, but you have to kind of follow some basic rules. And usually it takes a little time once you get your system. It takes a little time to practice a little bit and find out kind of, hey, what did I do, or what did I do this wrong? And usually it's, hey, yeah, you got to make sure that the marker's on the club this way. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, okay, thanks, got it. It's good. That's a pretty typical call for us. But it's easy to forget where all the markers need to go, or it's easy to forget what the club needs to be doing. So today is just like a little bit of a troubleshooting thing. So there's three things basically that could cause Gears to go bad. One of them is if the cameras move, or the system, or the room itself goes out of calibration. That's the first thing. So sometimes that's hard to tell, but calibration takes about 1 minute or less to do. So to be safe, you really want to calibrate the room on a daily basis, or especially after you close or open your garage bay door. And again, it's a very fast process, so it's not that steep of a price to pay to make sure that system's calibrated. And it's just kind of like a ease of mind or peace of mind that you got it right, you know. And I think that's kind of important. The second thing is the markers. You don't have the right number of markers. So let's say you have put 5 markers on the club instead of 6. Okay, that club is not going to track or create properly if you have the wrong number of markers. You might have the right number of markers, but something might be blocking those markers. For example, let's say you have a player and he's got the right markers on, but his shirt kind of comes out and it's covering that marker, okay? If the cameras can't, in optical motion capture, the only way we work is if we can see the marker. So there's 8 cameras. Each camera needs to see that. There's 2 cameras need to see that marker at all times. So that's why we have 8 or 7 or 6, sometimes 6, sometimes 5 cameras. But most systems have around 7 or 8 cameras. And we put them around the room so that they can be viewed from all these different angles, right? But if a player might, untuck his shirt for some reason, or it comes out and this one gets marked, the avatar is going to look goofy, okay? If the player has a unique swing, for example, let's say we've got this marker right here that's on the elbow, and the player does something really unique with his swing and it covers up that marker. Again, that marker, if that marker cannot be seen by the camera, then we don't have the right marker count, okay? So marker count is really important. You have the right number of markers, and they can't be blocked from the cameras, okay? That is pretty much the number one thing. That's why it's important to put these markers on correctly. If you put this down here, that marker could get occluded from the cameras on a unique swing where the right arm gets really underneath it, for example. So it's also important that the markers are all covered. So like in this case, we want to make sure that your shirt's tucked in. We don't need to rescale the avatar there, but if for some reason this marker moves, or if it needs to be repositioned, then we would simply refit the skeleton. Okay, that's the second one. The third one is that the markers are in the wrong position. So if I come back here and I put this marker there and this marker there, the avatar is not going to know what to do. The system is designed to be looking for these markers in a certain place to be able to create it. Okay, so I don't think there's a human alive that has the scapula, center of the scapula here, and the base of the scapula over here. If that were the case, we would probably have to do some kind of different research of something, but we could capture it. But in Gears, we've designed it specifically for certain things. So if the markers are not in the right position, the avatar will have a hard time creating. So that's the number one troubleshooting thing that we find, is that there's, well, not the number one, but there's actually three things that we find. Either the room itself has gone out of calibration, you don't have the right number of markers, meaning the markers are either you didn't put the right number on, or one of them's being, or two or three, are being occluded from the cameras. And then the third thing is that the markers are in the wrong position. If you follow those three things for troubleshooting, you're going to be just fine with gears. When we go through that list, or you call us if you have questions, those are the first three things we're going to ask you. And really, very rarely do we have cameras go down. I think in 100 systems that we've put out there, I've only seen a couple of cameras ever go down. They're warranted for life. We make them in-house. We're the best in the world at making cameras, motion capture cameras. So it's like, usually the things that are going wrong with gears are one of those three things. Again, systems out of calibration, wrong marker count, or the cameras can't see, you don't have the right number of markers. So we're going to do a capture right now, and I'm going to take one of these markers off, or I'll take two of them off. Okay, so I have the wrong marker count right now. Okay, so what'll happen here, if you scroll over here to me, you can see the screen. When I fit this skeleton, sorry. You see here that the skeleton's kind of all scatty-womp, and you've probably seen some of this, some of you, but the skeleton's like, the system is doing its best to try to figure out where everything is. Oh, wait a second, something's missing. I'm trying to figure it out. It's a pretty smart product, but it's also specifically designed to do certain things. So go ahead and go into T-pose. And you can see that the avatar just doesn't want to do it. And what's going to happen is this little thing is going to come in and say, wrong marker count. So the system is smart enough to know that there's markers missing. So we're going to put this marker back on where it belongs. Okay, go ahead and do that T-pose. Look straight ahead for me. Boom. And now we're good. So go ahead and move around a little bit. Okay. So that would be a good example. If for some reason the hair may be occluding the marker, but again, you're not going to have any issues with gears as long as the system's calibrated and you have the right marker count and that you have the markers in the right position. Now we're going to do one more thing here. I'm going to basically, the club's going to go out of calibration here. And I'm going to take one of these markers off. Okay, now you see the club, I'm still getting a good avatar here, right? I'm still able to, kind of get, it looks like everything's fine. But you're going to see that it's going to have a hard time tracking throughout this golf swing. So let's find the ball. Okay, now Chance, go ahead and hit that for me. We've got a good body skeleton, but I'm missing one marker here. Okay, now you'll see here, you might need to scroll in and zoom in on this particular one here. You'll see here that the system itself, I don't see, I have the 3D markers. I'm tracking these markers, but I don't see any of the head markers. And so let's kind of scroll this back. So I don't see any of the markers on the head. Right there I see two of them, then they're gone. Okay, and when I don't see the markers, that means we didn't get good tracking. Okay, and we're probably close enough to be decent on these numbers, but I would not take these numbers to the bank because we're missing a marker. Okay, if we want to have the markers, and we saw the markers throughout the whole swing, you can take those numbers to the bank. I'll put that up against anybody. I'll put that up against the 20,000 frame rate camera, and we're going to win every time. So this is but if the markers are missing, if they're blocked or occluded, you can see that I'm still getting a pretty decent capture here, but I promise you that it's not tracking very well. The shaft data is probably going to be off. The head data is definitely going to be off. And you can see the club graphs. If I bring this up, you can see some really jaggedy movement happening in the club graphs. Not too bad there. But yeah, some of the club graphs are going to show up a little jaggedy, and the system's doing its best to kind of solve that. but we definitely do not want that to happen. So I'm going to put this back on here. Okay, now, one thing that I'll show you here real quick is that even though I just pulled this marker off the base stem here, see that? If the base stem doesn't come off, I can simply just pop this back on and make sure it's clicked on. I don't need to recalibrate that club. However, if the whole thing comes off, for a number of reasons, if the club vibrates, or if you hit it on the toe and it vibrates so much and this is so powerful that it comes off, or the adhesive has not had time to cure, or you're not using some kind of tape feature to, kind of put that on, what'll happen then is then you need to rescale the club or recalibrate the club. But if the marker itself just comes off or breaks off, you can simply snap a new one on. So go ahead and we're going to hit one here. This is one of the reasons why I leave markers, the 3D markers on. Go ahead and hit it, Chance. Okay, come on in. So here you can see that all 3 markers are at impact where they should be here. Okay, that club tracked very well. That's where you hit it on the face. You can take all these numbers to the bank, and I got really good tracking on that one. So this is why I leave the 3D markers on. You don't have to have them on in settings. Under environment, you have the option of turning them on or off. But I like to keep them on just so I can make sure that I had good tracking. And so that's basically the troubleshooting thing. So the main issues that when we have an avatar that kind of goes crazy, or if for some reason the club data, let's say he hit it on the toe and it shows up in the heel, or something weird happens, that's because either the club is out of calibration or the markers are not, we don't have the right number of markers, or they've been occluded for some reason. So those are the 3 main troubleshooting problems that you need to focus on. So if you're having any issues and you're having a little bit of trouble, you can always call us at 1-855-GEARS-NOW, and we'll be able to walk you through any of those issues. But remember, it's 3 things, those 3 things: marker position, marker count, and whether the room's calibrated or not. So those 3 things, you'll be in good shape. Thanks a lot.